She was 8 months pregnant, and she was dragging a log that weighed almost as much as her hope. The wind kept biting her cheeks. The ground kept slipping under her boots. Every few steps she had to stop, not because she wanted to, because her body forced her to. One hand on her belly, one hand on the bark, breathing hard, trying not to panic. There was no cabin, no road, no phone signal, just trees, rocks, and cold that crept into your bones like it belonged there. She didn't come out here to prove anything. She wasn't chasing a challenge. She wasn't filming a brave moment for the world. She was trying to survive a bad turn of luck. And now the sun was dropping fast like it couldn't wait to leave her behind. So she made a plan with the only thing the mountain gave for free: fallen logs. She pulled one close, then another. She stacked them the way her tired mind guessed would hold. She filled gaps with branches. She pressed muddy leaves into cracks like stuffing a wound. Her fingers were numb. Her back burned. And the baby kicked like a reminder. Like a clock. Then the forest went strangely quiet. No birds, no small sounds, just her breath and the creak of wood. She froze, because quiet like that doesn't happen for no reason. And that's when she heard it. A slow step behind her. Not a deer, not a squirrel, a human step. A man's voice followed, deep and steady, like he'd been there the whole time. "You're not alone." For a second she couldn't move at all. Her hands stayed on the log. Her shoulders stayed locked. Even her breath felt too loud. The voice came again, not closer, not louder, just steady. "I'm not here to scare you." She turned slowly. Not like in movies, not fast, not brave. Slow enough to keep control. Slow enough to run if she had to. A man stood between two trees a few steps back, tall, broad, wrapped in worn layers that looked like they belonged to the woods more than a closet, a thick beard, a cap pulled low, and eyes that didn't bounce around like a liar's. His hands were open, away from his belt, away from his pockets. Her heart hammered anyway, because the mountain was bad, but a stranger in the mountain could be worse. "Who are you?" she asked. Her voice came out rough, more like a cough than a question. He nodded once, like he respected the fear. "Name's Cole," he said. "I trap up here, live not far." She didn't believe the "not far" part, not in that cold. Not with the light fading. Not with nothing but trees in every direction. But she didn't say it. She didn't argue, she didn't waste words. "Why are you watching me?" she said. "I wasn't watching you," he replied. "I noticed smoke earlier. Then I saw you dragging that log. Didn't make sense to ignore it." That was when she realized something that tightened her stomach. She hadn't made smoke. She hadn't started a fire yet. She didn't even have a real fire pit. So what smoke was he talking about? She held her belly without meaning to, like her arm had its own mind. He followed her glance. His face didn't change, but his voice softened. "You're close," he said. "How close?" 8 months, she answered, and hated how small she sounded. His eyes narrowed, not at her but at the situation, like he was doing math in his head. Distance, temperature, time, risk. "Where's your people?" he asked. "I don't have people," she said, and the words slipped out too fast, too sharp, like a shield. He didn't react, just nodded again. "All right," he said. "Then where's your car, your trail, anything?" She swallowed. Her throat was dry and it hurt. "I lost it," she said. "The storm, I got turned around." That part was true. The rest of the story was messy, and she wasn't about to hand it to a stranger like a gift. She had been on the move for 2 days. The first day was panic and mistakes, wrong turns, wet shoes, a fall that bruised her hip. The second day was quieter in the worst way, not calm, just numb. Like her mind had stopped believing rescue was coming, so it focused only on the next 10 minutes. She had tried to follow the downhill line, thinking water would lead to people. But the creek split. The ground climbed again. And then the cold came harder, pushing into her clothes like hands. When she found this small break between trees, she thought, "This is it. This is where I build something, anything." Not because it was a good spot. Because she couldn't walk much more, not with the baby pressing low, not with her legs shaking. Cole looked at her half-built shelter, the log frame, the stacked wood, the messy walls of branches and leaves. He didn't laugh. He didn't call it stupid. But his jaw tightened. "That won't hold the night," he said. Her pride flared up, sudden and bright. "It has to," she snapped, "because it's all I have." He raised his open hands a little, calm as before. "I hear you," he said. "But listen to me. The temperature's dropping. Wind shifts after sundown. Your roof is open on the north side. That's where the bite comes from." She hated that he could look once and see what she couldn't. She hated that she needed anyone, especially now. "I can fix it," she said. "With what?" he asked, not mocking, just real. "You're already shaking." She didn't answer, because she was shaking. Her arms were tired all the way down to the bones, and the baby was moving again like it knew fear before it knew faces. Cole took a step sideways, not toward her, just to the side, like he wanted to show he wasn't closing in. "I got extra cord and a tarp," he said. "I can help you anchor this. Make it tighter. Warmer." She stared at him, trying to smell danger the way animals do, trying to catch any wrong note in his voice. But he sounded like a man who'd been cold before, like a man who knew what a bad night could do. "Why?" she asked again. "Why would you help me?" He looked at her belly, then away, like he didn't want to make it the whole point. "Because I'm not a monster," he said, "and because you're up here late in the season. That means something went wrong." It was the first time she felt the edge of tears, hot behind her eyes, not because he was kind, because she had been alone so long that basic kindness felt unreal. Still, she didn't move. She didn't step closer, she didn't say yes. Cole seemed to understand. He reached behind him slowly and pulled out a small roll from his pack. He held it out at arm's length. Paracord. A knife in a leather sheath, still clipped to his belt. He didn't touch it. "You tie, you cut," he said. "I'll do the lifting." She watched him carefully. Then she nodded once, just enough to keep him talking, just enough to keep control. He moved like someone used to hard work. No wasted motion. He grabbed a thicker fallen branch and wedged it in place to support the roofline. He showed her where to run the cord, where to pull it tight. His fingers were rough and sure. Her fingers clumsier, stiff with cold. As she wrapped and tied, she kept her eyes flicking to the trees behind him, because his words from earlier wouldn't leave her head. Smoke, and the way the forest had gone quiet. "Back there," she said, trying to keep her voice normal. "You said you saw smoke earlier." Cole didn't stop working, but his face changed slightly, like a door closing. "I did," he said. "From where?" she asked. "I didn't light anything." "I know," he answered. That made her stomach drop. "So who did?" she whispered. Cole finally paused. He looked out into the fading light, past her shelter, deeper into the trees. The quiet was still there, heavy, like the whole mountain was holding its breath. "That's what I meant," he said. "When I told you you're not alone." A chill crawled up her arms that had nothing to do with weather. "There's someone else?" she asked. "Maybe," he said. "Or something. I don't jump to stories, but I saw a thin line of smoke, not far. And I heard movement when I came in, not matching yours." She tried to swallow, but her mouth was dry again. "Could it be a camper?" "In this cold?" he asked. "This high up, with the wind shifting? Not likely, not unless they're desperate. Or they know exactly what they're doing." She glanced around. Every shadow looked like a person now. Every branch looked like it could hide eyes. "What do we do?" she asked. Cole looked back at her shelter and made a quick decision. "First we finish this," he said. "Warmth is step one. Panic comes after we're not freezing." She nodded because she didn't have anything else. She kept tying, pulling, holding the cord in numb hands. He pulled another log into place, bracing the side wall. As they worked, she tried to remember details from the last 2 days. Anything that didn't fit. Any sound she ignored. Any moment she thought she saw movement and told herself it was a squirrel or wind. There was that one time near the creek, a shape between trees. She had blinked and it was gone. And later, the smell. A faint smell like old fire. She thought it was her imagination. Now it didn't feel like imagination. Cole finished the roof support and stepped back. "Better," he said. "Not perfect, but better." The light was almost gone. The sky was turning that dead blue color that comes before true night. The temperature was already dropping fast, like the mountain had flipped a switch. She hugged her arms around herself, trying to stop the shiver in her teeth. "If there's someone out there," she said, "they could come here." Cole nodded once. "That's why we don't make a big fire," he said. "Small, hidden, enough to heat, not enough to signal." She stared at him. "You're worried they'd see it." "I'm worried about anything I can't explain," he said. "Up here, you respect what you don't understand." He crouched near the ground and started building a small fire base, tucked behind a natural wall of logs and dirt. He pointed for her to gather dry pieces from inside the shelter pile, not from open ground. He kept his voice low, like sound itself mattered. She followed his instructions, but her mind was racing now. Because the worst part wasn't the cold anymore. It was the idea that she had been building this shelter while someone else might have been nearby, watching. The idea that the quiet in the woods had been warning her, and she didn't know how to listen. And then from somewhere deeper in the trees came a sound that wasn't wind, a soft crack, then another, measured, slow, like footsteps choosing where to land. Cole's head lifted like it was pulled by a string. He didn't reach for his knife. He didn't make a big show, he just stopped moving. And in that small pause she felt it too. The difference between random forest noise and something that listened back. Another crack came, closer this time. Her mouth opened but no sound came out. She didn't want to speak. Speaking felt like turning on a light in a dark room. It felt like saying, "Here I am." Cole raised one finger, a quiet command, "Don't move, don't talk." He leaned toward the shelter wall and placed his palm on the logs, like he could feel vibration through wood. Then he turned his head slightly, listening with his whole body. The steps stopped. The silence after was worse, because it felt like whoever made the sound was doing the same thing, listening, waiting. Her hands went to her belly again, not dramatic, just instinct. The baby shifted, a slow roll like it sensed her heartbeat speeding up. Cole whispered barely air, "Get inside." She looked at the shelter. It was small, low, tight. It would be hard to crawl in quickly, harder to crawl out, but it was cover, it was something. She shook her head, tiny. "I can't," she started. Cole's eyes snapped to hers, not angry, just urgent. "Now," he mouthed. She lowered herself carefully, fighting pain in her hips. Then she dropped to her knees and crawled in, the rough wood scraping her coat. The space smelled like damp leaves and fresh bark. It wasn't warm yet, but it blocked the wind. Cole stayed outside. That part scared her even more. He crouched near the small fire base he'd started, but he didn't light it. He kept his body low, blending into the messy shape of the half-built shelter like he'd done this before. Like he knew that being seen was sometimes the real danger. From inside, she could only see pieces of him through cracks between logs and branches. A shoulder, the side of his face, his breath in small clouds. Then she heard it again. Footsteps, slow, careful, not rushing. They came from the uphill side where the trees were thicker. The sound didn't belong to a big animal charging. It belonged to something trying not to be heard. Her mind threw up pictures she didn't want. A hungry person, a desperate person. The kind of person who looked at a pregnant woman and didn't see a human being, just a target. She pressed her forehead against the inside log, trying to quiet her breathing, trying to become smaller than she was. Cole shifted his weight, not toward the sound, slightly away, like he was changing the angle so he could see without being seen. The footsteps stopped again. A long beat passed. Then a voice came out of the dark, not close, not far, somewhere between trees. "Hello," the voice called. It wasn't Cole's voice. It wasn't hers. It was a man's voice, but younger, scratchy. Like someone who hadn't spoken to another person in a while, or like someone trying to sound normal when they weren't. Her skin tightened. Cole didn't answer. The man spoke again. "I saw movement. I don't want trouble." Cole's jaw flexed. She could see it through the crack. Then he spoke, his voice calm but hard. "Keep your distance," Cole said. A small pause. Then the man answered, "I'm just looking for a place to get warm." Cole didn't move. "There's no fire here," he said. The man let out a weak laugh that didn't feel funny. "Come on, I can smell it." Her stomach dropped. There wasn't a fire yet, but there was the scent of old smoke. The smell Cole mentioned earlier. The smell she remembered near the creek. That meant this man might have made it, or at least been near it. Cole's voice stayed steady. "You're up high for warmth," he said. "I got turned around," the man replied quickly, too quickly. Cole's eyes narrowed. "Then walk down," he said. "You'll find lower ground and less wind." The man's silhouette moved between trees. She couldn't see him fully, but she could feel the shift in the darkness, like a shape leaning forward. "I can't," the man said. "Not tonight." Cole's shoulders rose and fell in one slow breath. He didn't show fear, but she felt his caution sharp as a blade. "What's your name?" Cole asked. Another pause, too long. "Evan," the man said. Cole nodded once like he filed it away. "Evan." "Keep walking," he said. "This isn't your spot." The man's voice changed slightly, softer. "Please, I'm freezing." And for a moment her heart pulled in two directions, because she knew that feeling. She knew the cold that made thinking slow. She knew what it meant to be desperate in a place that didn't care if you lived. But then the man added, "I saw her." Two words, and the world tilted. Her fingers tightened against the inside log until her knuckles ached. Cole didn't look back at the shelter, but his voice lowered. "You don't know what you saw," he said. "I saw a pregnant woman," the man replied. "I'm not blind." Cole's tone sharpened. "That means you were close enough to see her," he said, "and close enough to know she ain't alone." The man's laugh came again, still wrong. "Doesn't look like she's got much," he said. That was it. That was the crack in the mask. Her breath stopped. Her whole body went cold in a different way. Cole stood up fully then, not tall and proud, tall like a warning sign. He took one step so he was more visible, so the stranger could see a real person blocking the way. "You leave," Cole said. Now, for a long moment, nothing moved. Then the man in the trees exhaled, loud enough to carry, like annoyance, like he'd been denied something he wanted. "All right," he said. "All right. No need to act tough." But as he spoke, the shape didn't retreat. It shifted sideways, circling. Cole noticed instantly. He moved too, mirroring the angle, blocking the line between the trees and the shelter, keeping himself between her and that shadow. From inside, she wanted to scream at Cole to come in, to hide, to run, but her body knew the truth. Running wasn't simple, not 8 months pregnant, not at night, not in the cold, not with unknown ground. Cole's voice stayed calm, but each word landed like a stone. "Stop moving," he said. The man froze, another beat. Then from deeper in the woods a second sound answered, not words, a whistle, short, sharp. It came from farther uphill. Her stomach turned to ice. Cole's face changed completely. The calm didn't leave, but something behind his eyes shifted into readiness, like the moment had finally shown its real shape. He spoke without turning his head, barely moving his lips. "Stay quiet," he murmured, meant only for her. "No matter what you hear." Her mouth went dry, because she understood what that whistle might mean. It wasn't a bird, it wasn't the wind. It sounded like a signal. And it meant Evan might not be alone either. Cole didn't look back at the shelter again, but she could feel the way his whole body shifted, like a door being braced from the inside. The man called Evan stayed still for a moment, almost too still, like he was waiting for permission, or waiting for the second voice to decide what happens next. From somewhere uphill the whistle came again, 2 short notes this time. Evan answered without turning his head, a small tilt of his chin, like "I hear you," like "I'm here." And that made her blood run cold, because this wasn't a lost camper who stumbled into them. This was someone who had a plan, or at least someone who had backup. Cole spoke, calm but tighter now. "You got someone with you," he said. Evan's shoulders lifted in a lazy shrug. "Maybe," he said. "Maybe not." Cole didn't bite. "Walk away," he said. "This is your last chance to make this simple." Evan's voice changed again, the fake friendliness thinning out. "You're acting like I'm dangerous," he said. Cole's answer came fast. "I'm acting like you're lying." A pause, a breath. Then Evan laughed, and this time it sounded mean. "Man, you really want to freeze out here over a tarp and a few sticks." Cole's jaw clenched. "It ain't about the tarp." Evan stepped forward one slow pace, not rushing, testing. Cole didn't move back. He just angled his body so the shelter stayed behind him, Like he was a wall, Evan stopped. "I'm just saying," he said, "there's enough room for all of us. We can share." The word share landed wrong, like oil on water. Inside the shelter, she pressed her mouth into her sleeve to keep her breathing quiet. Her legs shook in the cramped space. She tried to think clearly, but her mind kept slipping toward panic. If there were two of them and only one of Cole and her, barely able to stand fast, Cole spoke again and his voice was low, steady, controlled. "Who else is out there?" he asked. Evan hesitated just a fraction too long. "Nobody," he said. Cole nodded like he expected that answer. Then he lifted his voice slightly, not loud but enough to carry. "Whoever's up the hill," he called into the trees, "you can stop hiding. I already know you're there." Silence. Then branches shifted, not close, farther back, but real. A second figure stepped into view between the trees, half-shadowed, smaller than Evan, thinner, a hood pulled up, hands hidden, her stomach twisted. Cole didn't flinch. "Evening," he said. The second figure didn't speak. Evan's confidence sharpened now, like he felt stronger with the other person present. "See," he said, "it's just us. We're cold, that's it." Cole didn't answer the words. He answered the situation. "You two keep your distance," he said. "And you go back the way you came." Evan scoffed. "And if we don't," Cole's voice stayed flat, "then you'll learn why you should've." For the first time she saw Cole move his hand toward his belt. Not fast, not dramatic. Just enough to show there was a knife. Enough to remind them he wasn't empty-handed. Evan's eyes flicked to it, then to the shelter, then back to Cole. He smiled. "You gonna stab us over her?" he said. "Over a pregnant stranger you just met?" Cole didn't take the bait. "I'm gonna keep you away from my camp," he said, and his words were simple but they hit hard. My camp. That phrase mattered. He was claiming the space. Claiming control, making it clear this isn't a negotiation. The second figure shifted again, a small movement to the side, circling, trying to get a better angle. Cole noticed instantly. "Don't do that," he warned. The figure froze. Evan's smile widened. "Relax," he said like he was the calm one. "We're not trying to hurt anybody." Then he raised his voice, looking past Cole toward the shelter. "Hey," he called out, "ma'am, you okay in there?" Her throat tightened. She didn't answer, not a sound. Evan leaned forward slightly like he was listening for her. "You don't have to stay with him," he said. "You don't even know him." Her heart pounded so hard she felt it in her ears. He was trying to pull her out, not physically. Mentally, he wanted her to doubt Cole, to split them. Cole's voice cut in. "Don't talk to her," he said. Evan shrugged. "Why not? You scared she'll choose us?" Cole's eyes stayed on Evan. "I'm scared you'll say anything to get close," he replied. The second figure made another small move. This time, lower to the ground, like a step meant to vanish behind brush. Cole shifted his stance again, keeping both in view, but she could tell it was hard. Two angles, two threats. One man holding a line. Inside the shelter, she forced herself to do something, anything besides shake. Her hands searched the ground in the dimness. Leaves, damp mud, pieces of bark. Then her fingers found a fist-sized rock near the base log. She picked it up slowly. The weight was comforting, even if it was pathetic compared to whatever these two had. Another soft sound came from uphill. Not a whistle this time, a murmur, like a voice farther away. Too faint to catch words. Evan heard it too, his head tilted. He looked annoyed, like someone else was getting impatient. Cole caught that change. "There's more," he said quietly. Evan's eyes narrowed. "No," he said, but the word came too fast, too sharp. Cole's voice lifted again, steady as stone. "If you got friends out there," he called, "tell them to keep walking. You're not taking anything from here." For a moment the woods stayed frozen. Then the second figure finally spoke, a low voice almost swallowed by the hood. "We just need warmth," Cole answered without hesitation. "So do we," he said, "but you didn't come in honest." Evan's smile vanished. His voice turned flat. "You're making a mistake," he said. Cole didn't blink. "So are you," he replied. Evan took one step forward again, closer than before. Close enough that she could hear the crunch of his boot through the shelter wall. Cole's hand tightened on his belt. He didn't draw the knife yet, but the threat was clear. Evan held up both hands like he was surrendering, but his eyes stayed bright, alert, calculating. "Okay," he said slowly. "Okay, we'll back off." The second figure shifted back too, just a half step into shadow. Cole didn't relax. "Keep backing," he said. Evan backed up 2 steps. Then 3. His smile returned, smaller and colder. "You know what the funny part is?" Evan said, voice carrying through the trees like a bad smell. "We weren't even here for you." Cole's eyes narrowed. "Then why are you here?" Evan's gaze slid past Cole again toward the shelter like he couldn't help himself. "Because we saw the smoke earlier," he said. "And smoke means food, gear, stuff people leave behind." Cole's face stayed controlled, but she felt the danger deepen. Because stuff people leave behind meant robbed. It meant stranded. It meant dead sometimes. Evan tipped his head toward the uphill darkness, as if pointing without pointing. "It's a big mountain," he said, "and you're not the only camp we found." Then he took another step backward, melting into the trees. The second figure followed, quiet as a shadow. Cole stood there, still blocking the shelter, watching them go. He didn't move until the darkness swallowed them completely. Even then, he didn't relax. Because the woods didn't go back to normal. No birds returned. No small sounds came back. Only wind, thin and sharp. And that distant murmur again, somewhere uphill, like the mountain was full of voices that didn't want to be seen. Cole finally crouched near the shelter opening, still keeping his head turned outward. His voice was a whisper meant only for her. "You did good staying quiet," he said. She swallowed hard. "Are they gone?" she whispered back. Cole's eyes stayed on the trees. "They stepped away," he said. "That ain't the same thing." Her fingers tightened around the rock. "What do they want?" she asked. Cole's face went still. "They want what you got," he said, "and they don't care what it costs you." Her stomach clenched as another gust hit the shelter wall. The logs gave a soft creak, like an old chair shifting under weight. She held her breath until the sound passed. Cole stayed crouched at the opening, half in, half out, not entering fully, not leaving fully, like he refused to pick a side between safety and watchfulness. "What do we do?" she whispered. Cole didn't answer right away. He listened first. He tilted his head, eyes cutting through the dark gaps between trees. The night was thicker now, the kind of dark where shapes could be anything. Then he spoke, quiet and firm. "We do 3 things," he said. "We get you warm, we keep the lights small, and we make it hard for anybody to walk up on us." Her throat felt tight. "Hard how?" He nodded toward her hands. "That rock," he said. "Good, keep it. And if you got anything sharp, keep it close." She checked her pockets with stiff fingers. A small folding knife she'd used earlier to cut cord. She hadn't even thought of it as a weapon. Now it felt like a lifeline. Cole reached into his pack and pulled out a folded tarp. Dark, mud-stained, not pretty, but real protection. He slid it across the top of the shelter frame, careful to keep movement low and quiet, then began tying it down with cord. Each knot made a tiny sound, a soft pull, a small squeak. She flinched at everyone like the noises could travel for miles. "Slow," Cole murmured. "Quiet is faster." She forced herself to match his pace. The tarp changed the shelter immediately. The wind stopped cutting through the gaps on that side. The air inside became stiller, heavier. It didn't feel warm yet, but it felt less hopeless. Cole took a fistful of dried grass and a few thin sticks and built a small fire deeper inside, tucked behind logs and dirt so the glow wouldn't flash out like a beacon. He struck a spark, once, twice. The third time, a tiny orange tongue caught. It was so small it almost looked embarrassed to exist. But it was enough. She felt the smallest lick of warmth on her numb fingers and wanted to cry from relief. She didn't let herself. She couldn't afford to lose control. Cole fed the fire carefully like he was nursing something fragile. "This isn't a campfire," he whispered. "This is a heater," she nodded. "Okay." He glanced at her belly again. "Any pain?" he asked. She hesitated. She didn't want to say it, but lying didn't help. "My back," she admitted, "and my ribs, and I've been cramping a little." Cole's expression tightened. "How long?" "On and off," she said. "Since today." That was the truth. The cramps weren't strong, Not regular, but they were there like distant thunder. Cole sat back on his heels. "You've been drinking water." "I tried," she said, "but it's so cold." "And I didn't want to stop too much." Cole exhaled slowly. "Dehydration can make cramps worse," he said. "Stress too, and you got plenty of that." She almost laughed. It would have been ugly. Cole reached into the pack again and pulled out a small metal cup. "You got any bottle?" he asked. She had a crushed plastic bottle with a little water left. She handed it over. Cole poured it into the cup and held it near the tiny flames, not boiling it, just warming it. "Sip," he said. Slow, she did. The water was barely warm, but it felt like life moving back into her. Outside, the wind hissed through the trees. The tarp fluttered once, then settled. Cole tied another knot tighter, making the shelter quieter. She watched him work and felt something shift in her chest. Not trust yet, but the beginning of it. The part that said, "He's still here, he hasn't left." Cole finally moved fully inside, but he stayed near the opening, like a guard at a door. "Cole," she whispered. He looked at her. "What if they come back?" she asked. Cole stared into the dark. "Then they'll find we're ready," he said. Her grip tightened around the rock. "Ready doesn't mean safe," she said. Cole nodded slightly, like he respected that. "No," he replied. "But it can mean alive." They sat like that for a while. The tiny fire breathed. The shelter held. The night pressed in from all sides, cold and silent and watching. And in the small quiet, her mind started filling in the blanks. She thought about how she got here, about the beginning of the storm, about the wrong turn, about the moment she realized she was lost and the panic rose so fast it felt like drowning. She hadn't told Cole any of that. Not fully. She wasn't sure she ever would. But she could feel the story in her throat, heavy and unsaid. Cole broke the silence first. "You got a name?" he asked. She blinked. It felt strange to be asked something normal. "Mara," she said. Cole nodded. "Mara," he repeated like it mattered. Like saying her name made her more real than a shadow in the woods. "Why are you up here, Cole?" she asked back, her voice low. He shrugged slightly. "Been up here a long time," he said. "Long enough to know the mountain keeps what folks drop." "What does that mean?" she asked. Cole looked into the fire for a second. "People come up thinking it's a place to find something," he said. "Peace, adventure, money, a new start. And then the mountain takes their plan apart." He didn't say more, but she felt what he wasn't saying. He'd seen things, maybe too many. A sudden sound snapped through the night. Not footsteps this time. A distant shout, muffled but human. Mara's blood turned cold again. Cole's head lifted, his eyes narrowed. The shout came again, farther uphill. Then another voice answered it, quieter, like a response, like a call and answer. Mara stared at Cole. "That's them," she whispered. Cole didn't speak. He shifted closer to the shelter opening and peered out through a crack in the tarp, careful not to show his face. He listened with a stillness that felt practiced. The voices faded, then returned, then faded again. Like people searching, Mara's mouth went dry. "Are they looking for us?" Cole's voice came low. "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe they're looking for what they think you got," she swallowed. "We don't have anything," she whispered. Cole's eyes flicked to her pack, then back to the dark. "To a hungry man, a pack is something," he said. "To a desperate man, a woman alone is something." Mara felt sick. "What if they think I'm alone?" she asked. Cole didn't hesitate. "Then we make sure they don't," he said. He reached toward the small fire and moved a log, shrinking the glow even more until it was barely a heartbeat of light. Then he pulled something else from his pack. Not a weapon, a small mirror. The kind used for signaling. He held it up near the shelter opening, angled toward the dark. Mara frowned. "What's that for?" she whispered. Cole's voice stayed calm. "If they get close enough to show a light," he said, "I can throw it back at their eyes, just a flash, just enough to make them step wrong." Mara stared at him. She hadn't even thought of light as a tool like that. Cole leaned closer, eyes hard now. "Listen to me," he whispered. "If someone talks to you again, you don't answer, not one word. You stay behind the logs, you keep that rock, and you breathe slow." Mara nodded, but her throat tightened. "What if they come in?" she whispered. Cole's gaze held hers. "Then I stop them at the door," he said. Mara wanted to argue, wanted to say, "You can't," wanted to say, "Don't be stupid," wanted to say, "I don't want you hurt because of me." But before she could speak, a new sound cut through the wind. A soft scrape, right outside, close. So close it felt like it came from the shelter wall itself. Cole's hand went to his belt. Mara's grip crushed the rock, and the tarp at the shelter entrance shifted just slightly, as if something on the other side had leaned in to listen. The tarp moved again, not much, just enough to show pressure like a finger testing fabric. Mara's whole body locked. Her breath snagged in her throat, sharp and silent. Cole didn't rush. He didn't yank the tarp open or shout. He leaned in close to the entrance, pressing his shoulder against the frame so the opening stayed narrow. His hand rested on the knife, but he didn't draw it yet. He waited. Outside, the scrape stopped. Then came a whisper, almost swallowed by the wind. "Hey," Mara's skin crawled. It sounded like Evan. But it also sounded like someone trying to sound like Evan, like a voice wearing a mask. Cole didn't answer. "Come on," the voice said again. "We can help." Mara felt the urge to speak rise up like a cough, to say, "Go away," to say, "Please," to say anything that proved she was human and scared. But Cole's earlier words held her down. Not one word. Another tiny shift on the tarp. The fabric pulled a fraction, as if someone was trying to peek in through a crack. Cole's voice finally came, low and dangerous in its calm. "Step back," he said. A pause. Then the voice tried softer. "Man, we're cold." Cole didn't move. "You take one more step," he said, "and you'll regret it." There was a small laugh outside, thin and mean. "You won't," the voice said. "You ain't gonna do anything. Not with her in there." Mara's stomach dropped. They knew. They knew a pregnant woman was inside. They knew he'd hesitate. Cole's reply was instant. "Try me." Silence. Then a sound like a foot shifting in snow and leaves. A slow step, not away, closer. Mara squeezed the rock so hard her fingers went numb again. The baby rolled inside her, heavy and slow, like it was settling into the fear. Cole's shoulders tightened. His free hand slid down to the ground near the entrance. Mara saw what he was doing. He was feeling for something. A stick. A stone. Anything. The tarp bulged once more. Cole moved in a flash. He drove his forearm against the tarp and the entry frame, slamming it inward, not opening it, closing it harder. At the same time, his other hand snapped forward with the knife, not to stab blindly, but to slash the cord line near the edge. The tarp dropped half an inch, tightening in a way that snapped back against whoever was leaning in. A grunt came from outside. Surprise, pain, anger, then quick footsteps backed away, not running, retreating fast like someone who didn't expect resistance. Mara's lungs finally pulled in air, shaky and loud. She forced herself to quiet it again, pressing her sleeve to her mouth. Cole kept his eyes on the entrance, knife held low. He didn't chase. He didn't step out. He knew that's what they might want, to pull him into the dark. Outside, a voice hissed. "What the?" Another voice answered, quieter. Then another faint murmur from uphill. Cole's face went still. He whispered without looking back. "More than two." Mara felt her throat tighten. "How many?" she mouthed. Cole didn't answer. He listened again, reading the night like a map. The wind shifted and brought a different smell into the shelter. Smoke. Not theirs. Not the tiny heater fire. Stronger, like a bigger fire somewhere uphill. Mara's eyes widened. "They've got a camp," she whispered. Cole nodded once. "Yeah," he whispered back. "And they've been here longer than you." The voices outside lowered, moving farther out, circling. Mara could hear them now in pieces. Not words she could catch, but tones. Planning tones. Cole leaned in toward Mara, his voice barely air. "If they rush the opening, you go to the back corner," he said. "You keep your belly behind the logs. You don't swing that rock wild. You aim for hands, fingers, eyes if you got to." Mara's stomach turned. The way he said it was terrible and calm at the same time, like this wasn't drama, it was procedure. She nodded. She felt dizzy. "Okay," she whispered. Cole eased the knife back into his hand more firmly. Then he reached into his pack and pulled out the small mirror again. He angled it toward the entrance and held it ready, like a quiet trick. The night outside held for a long beat, And then the tarp at the entrance lifted. Not from one side, from above. Mara's mind screamed. Cole reacted instantly. He snapped the mirror up, catching the faintest glint of moonlight and throwing it straight out through the opening. A sharp yelp came from outside and the tarp dropped again. A curse. Loud now, angry. Mara's heart smashed against her ribs. She could feel everything at once. The cold, the heat of fear, the ache in her back, the pressure low in her belly. Then the next move came. A stick pushed into the tarp seam, trying to pry it open. The fabric stretched. The cord creaked. Cole grabbed the stick through the tarp and yanked hard. A surprised grunt. The stick came free. Then he thrust it out through the opening like a spear, not to stab deep but to jab and force space. Another yelp. Another curse. Footsteps scrambled back. Mara's hands trembled so badly she almost dropped the rock. She hated how weak she felt. She hated how it wasn't even about winning. It was about lasting, about holding a line long enough that the other side gave up. Cole whispered, "Good," like he was talking to the shelter itself. "Good. Make 'em pay for every inch." Outside, the voices gathered again, close, then farther, then close again, like wolves testing a fence. Mara heard Evan's voice clearly now, frustrated and sharp. "He's got a knife." A second voice, the hooded one, low and tense. "We can't stay out here." Evan snapped, "Then take it, he's one man." Another voice answered from uphill, older maybe, harsher. "Shut up, think." Mara's blood went cold. There really was another one, a third, maybe more. Cole's eyes flicked to Mara. He whispered, "They're arguing." Mara swallowed. "Is that good?" she breathed. "It can be," Cole whispered. "Means they ain't a team, means they're hungry. Hungry." That word hit like a punch. Hungry people did stupid things, dangerous things. The tarp trembled again, but this time it wasn't being pulled. It was wind. A stronger gust pushing hard against the shelter walls. The logs creaked and shifted slightly. Mara's eyes widened in horror. "The shelter," Cole's voice stayed calm. "Hold the frame," he whispered. He planted his shoulder against the main support log. Mara crawled closer, placing her hands on the inner wall, pushing back as the wind tried to steal the tarp like a sail. Outside, their voices rose for a second, then lowered again. Mara could barely hear them over the wind now. Then footsteps started moving away. Not fast, not frightened, just backing off. A long minute passed, then another. Mara's arms shook from holding the wall. Her breath came in tight bursts. Cole kept listening, face turned toward the opening, eyes narrowed like he could see through darkness. The wind eased slightly. The tarp settled. And in that tiny drop of tension, Mara felt a strong cramp grab her stomach. Not the distant thunder from before. This one was close, real. She sucked in air, eyes squeezing shut. Her hand went to her belly. Cole noticed instantly. "Mara," he whispered, "talk to me." She tried to breathe through it. She whispered, voice breaking. "It's stronger." Cole's face tightened. He leaned closer, still keeping one eye on the entrance. "How long?" he asked. "I don't know," she said, shaking. "It just hit." Cole's jaw worked like he was forcing himself to make choices fast. "Okay," he said. "Okay, we keep you calm, we keep you warm, and we stay ready." Mara stared at him through the dim glow of the tiny fire. "What if it's starting?" she whispered. Cole's voice lowered. "Then we do what we need to do," he said. "But we don't do it with them out there." Mara's throat tightened. "Are they still out there?" Cole didn't answer right away. Because outside in the distance, a new sound drifted down through the trees. Not a whistle, not a voice. A low, unmistakable crackle, a big fire being fed. And then, faint but clear, the sound of someone laughing near it.